this week's crypto recap. We cover the first 2 weeks of the biggest crypto trial, a big announcement from the SEC soon, maybe for spot Bitcoin ETFs, and we share some of the best crypto tools to keep on track of your cryptocurrency. We discuss all this right here and now with Nic, research analyst from Collective Shift, in our weekly recap. Actionable insights and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. Nic, tell us about the market first. What's it been like in the last week?
Thanks, Leon. Thanks for having me back. The market's looking slightly down. We saw Bitcoin drop about 3%. Ethereum was a bit larger, about 4.5%. And crypto market cap as an aggregate has, dipped below that about 4%. So still sitting above that 1 trillion market cap we always talk about. I think this was largely due to a lot of inflation talk that came out during the week with the US September Consumer Price Index rose a bit above 0.3%. So not too much, but I think it was slightly above what everyone was expecting, but not too far out of the expectation line. But kind of proves that a lot of talk about maybe inflation may not come down as easily or stay down is definitely there in the market. So I even saw there was some talk about from KPMG, a senior economist there, talk about whether we're going to see a return to the 1970s inflation, which we saw an initial hike, then it dropped, then we saw another hike coming. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, at the moment, whether we're going to follow the past or whether inflation might be doing something entirely different. Also, I'm not sure about you, but it was also a pretty sad day in the news cycle where we saw geopolitical tensions rise. We saw a new war, start to emerge and really escalate in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine. So, a lot of uncertainty, I think, in the market.
That's right, Nic. And it's really quite unfortunate that today's age, we still end up going to war. We can't put our differences behind us, but we are a non-political company over at Collective Shift. And this is one of the things that brings me back to Bitcoin all the time, Nic, is that there is no geographical boundaries in Bitcoin. If people here need to transact on the blockchain and these people don't like them, they can't stop them. Doesn't matter how powerful they are, the Bitcoin blockchain just keeps working and no one is discriminated against. And that's one of the beautiful things I love about Bitcoin, Nic. So yeah, for me, it is quite unfortunate, but at the same time, it's really powerful whenever I think back to being Bitcoin and having that native asset on chain. Yeah. So Nic, thank you very much for that, man. Let's move on to, I think, one of our first biggest crypto trial that's actually happening in the world right now, actually in history. And this was the FTX, or let's call them SBF. There's so many acronyms nowadays. It's the Sam Bankman-Fried and the FTX exchange. So SBF, he is currently in the biggest crypto trial. It's been 2 weeks so far. Nic, there's been a few notable highlights. What's happened in the last week or two, and who said what, and what's the goss, mate?
It's been interesting to watch, that's for sure. Well, we actually can't watch it because there's no cameras allowed in the trial, which I'm sure a lot of people may be grateful for, or also just go down the, Sam Bankman-Fried rabbit hole all day long, because it's sort of the story that just keeps on developing. And now we'll hear these stories come out in court about what it was actually like to work at FTX or work at Alameda, which is the trading firm, that is allegedly accused of, Sam taking the reins and misappropriating customer funds from. So there was probably a few key notices. Two was Gary Wang, who was the former CTO of FTX. He come out and essentially, told everybody what we suspected, that SBF was using customer funds and that FTX and Alameda had an unhealthy relationship, and that Alameda actually had special privileges on the FTX exchange to perhaps trade faster than others. We also heard from Caroline Ellison, who was the Alameda CEO, who was involved romantically with Sam. She come out and threw a lot of different stuff out there. Not sure what you saw. Maybe you can share your highlights there, Leon. But if your mind were just that, SBF knew that Alameda was taking that money from FTX customer funds, that they essentially were using it as a piggy bank for whatever they wanted to do. She said that SBF knew that of that $65 billion credit line to FTX. She also told about how Sam got her to create a bunch of fraudulent balance sheets to send off to Genesis and other crypto lenders who were roped in to all of this. Even to some absolutely wild stuff, from Sam wanting to buy Snapchat to him wanting to run for president or potentially be president. So a lot out there. I'm not sure what caught your eye, Leon.
Yeah, Nick, mate, when you said that, that really jogged my memory about SBF. Previously, he was saying, we're getting so big, I want to go and buy the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME kind of company that helps with a lot of contracts and trading around the world. And I was saying, oh, we're getting so big, we're going to buy them. And at that point, I was like, oh man, this guy's getting really big for his boots here. But yes, as you said, a lot of stuff has actually come out. Alameda did have a kind of a sister company relationship to FTX. It is kind of really disappointing to find out that they had, backdoor access or the ability to execute trades a lot faster than the rest of the public. That means you and me, Nick, you listening to us right now, that means Alameda was actually able to take advantage of you if you ever use the FTX exchange. And that is just not on, right? In a space where we're all about transparency and all about keeping each other safe, this is not what we expect from the industry leaders. So I'm really happy that he is facing justice at the moment. Now, on the side of using our funds as the piggy bank, Nick, that makes me very, very upset, right? Not only did he betray our trust, but he ended up using our own coins and our own tokens that we kept there so we could use ourselves. That is just not on. That makes me furious, and I hope he does get some jail time for this.
There's even a lot of stuff that he was bribing Chinese officials as well, which is another whole rabbit hole and set of potential allegations for him to face if that is true. Because they did reportedly have, I think, $1 billion stuck on a Chinese exchange, and they were unable to get it off, and so they had to do a lot of trickery to try and get it out. So it just sounds like it was an absolute. I think even a all hands was aired in the courtroom to hear what it was like in those final days of FTX and Alameda, which I had a little sneak peek, and I just couldn't stomach the whole thing because it was tough to listen to.
Jeez, mate, I need to go and listen to that, and so I can feel what it's like being with them at the moment and going through that heat. But Nick, I want to keep going with this because there's impacts on the market, right? This is not a small deal. This was a big red flag in crypto, right? So I want to see from your point of view, and I'll give mine as well. What's the kind of market implications for this? SBF, I thought, will be giving up some people in crypto because I think not everyone's a saint in crypto. What do you think? Has he said anything so far?
He hasn't said anything explicitly. Whether he says anything outside of that, we can only speculate. For me, though, the tangible impacts are really twofold. That Genesis, who was roped into the FTX collapse, they actually had to halt withdrawals again, I think, from another part of their business because the court was ordered them to pay, I think, something to the tune of $175 million to FTX liquidators for a lot of the business that went on in those final days. So we're still seeing some of those flow-on effects still hit the market. But then we're also seeing things like one of his tweets that he potentially was going to sort of close down Alameda in those final days or in September, a month before the collapse, and kind of wrote a Twitter thread that went over his thoughts and what he was going to say. He didn't end up sending it, but there was a passage there that I thought was really interesting, which said that it's especially galling because some competitors have internal trading desks that are an open secret, which specifically use confidential customer information to manipulate their own markets. So this is a tweet Sam was going to write that got aired in court. We have to take this with a grain of salt, though, because he also said a lot of things in that Twitter thread which were blatantly false. So you're not sure whether Sam is just trying to throw other exchanges under the bus in an effort to try and minimize, himself, or whether they may be true to this, and that we're going to find out more information about some other competitors who are, have internal trading desks that are trading against customers or doing some other things that, aren't okay in other markets in the world.
That's right. There's going to be a lot of things that come out from this giant trial. But at Collective Shift, you guys here, I want you to know we will keep away from the gossip and we want to bring you the key highlights and how this is actually going to impact your portfolio, going to impact your crypto journey. And that's very important because remember, Bitcoin just exists by itself. This is one company that decided to, misuse and abuse your trust. So there is a big difference here. FTX, SBF is not the entire crypto industry. It is not representative of all of us over even at Collective Shift here. We try and do our best for our members out there. And with that being said, Nick, I think let's leave it there. There may be some good news coming from FTX because they may have made some money from Anthropic, which is an AI company. But at the same time, let's just stop there. Let's keep going with the rest of the news, Nick. Otherwise, we'll keep going forever about it.
No doubt we'll be here next week to
Yeah.
go over maybe a few of the other things that shook us in the market.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to touch on very briefly some security news for you. Now, security in crypto is paramount. You guys hear us talk about it all the time. So there has been a recent security kind of hack that has leaked some information, and because of this, some people are being targeted. So this is not a warning, but just a caution to everyone out there. If you have ever used LastPass, which is kind of a password management tool, think of 1Password, for example. This kind of software did actually get exploited, and some of customer information was actually leaked, and because of that, they're being targeted. So it was leaked really in 2023. LastPass said customer data was significantly compromised after the threat actor copied a cloud-based backup of customer vault data. The trove of stolen data included encrypted passwords, usernames, and form-filled data. So guys, what's the big takeaway here? The big takeaway is you should never, ever be storing your seed phrases online, all right? Even if it is a password manager, they're saying that they had a third-party cloud-based solution storing all of that information for them. So now it's not just you dealing with the company, it's that you dealing with them and someone else, which opens you up to a whole lot of risk. So in the end, it's not worth it. Take charge of your own coins physically. You are the bank now. Remember, this is what Bitcoin is about. So yeah, that's my key takeaway, guys. But I want to bring it back to Collective Shift here because this is our job. We're here to try and help you in crypto. I want to share with you some of our security tips here that we have over at Collective Shift. Now, our security resource is pretty good. I'm going to share it here. I think actually, Nic, I don't have to share it. That's quite okay. Let's talk a little bit about our security resources. The first tip that we always say is keep your seed phrases offline. Nic, isn't that right?
Yeah, keep it offline is the number one thing, and I often see people don't do that. It's probably the easiest one, but far too often, people will simply try and take a shortcut and try and save it on a Google Doc. But I've seen a lot of people lose a lot of money just because of that, one tip.
Yeah, that's right. And even the second tip is also super important, activating 2FA. We're not going to go through all of the single tips, but two-factor authentication stops someone else from using any of your items without you physically clicking your phone or at least looking at a code so that you can have access as well. There's so many different attack vectors nowadays. Tech is getting more complicated, the more complex, the more attack factors. It's really difficult sometimes. So yeah, guys, keep it offline. It's very, very simple. I know it's hard to do, but it is simple. Nic, all right, I think that's enough talking about our security for our audiences. Let's go on to the next topic, my friend, which is ETF updates. What are the latest ETF updates? Because this is what some people have been waiting for in crypto.
Yeah, because it's been on the question on everyone's lips. When are we finally going to get a spot Bitcoin ETF? We saw maybe a move this week that may increase those chances, with the SEC reportedly looking not to appeal the decision against Grayscale, which is the owner of the largest Bitcoin trust, who won a court battle a couple of weeks ago with a judge essentially saying that the SEC was unfair in not allowing Grayscale to convert their Bitcoin trust to a Bitcoin spot ETF. So we've all been waiting whether we're going to hear an appeal come or not. If these reports are true, which is reportedly coming from inside someone either inside Grayscale or the SEC, that they aren't looking to appeal it, then this could increase the chances that we'll see a spot Bitcoin ETF quite a lot.
Yeah, and Nic, I want to bring that back to our audiences, the differences between a spot Bitcoin and a futures. We have talked about it very briefly before, but basically a spot Bitcoin ETF is the company, whoever's providing that exchange traded fund, they have to actually go and buy Bitcoin from the market, right? It's not paper traded. They don't sell it in Australian dollars or US dollars. They have to go and buy actual Bitcoin. Now, that is super, super different from actual futures, where you're just trading it on paper, trading it online. It's in the ether, doesn't really exist here and there. Not really, but the spot is what everyone is waiting for. Nic, I think that's going to be a big, big day when it does get approved, won't it?
Yeah, no doubt. And I actually wrote a post, for our members about that. So, any members that are also listening, or perhaps if you're interested to know what the spot ETF may mean and its tangible impacts, maybe I can put that in the show notes.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Let's put it down there. All right, now we'll keep you guys updated because I am very interested in this topic as well. And don't worry, Nick is all over it all the time. But let's move on to one more big topic that we want to get to before we get to the crypto tools that we use. Now, Nick, I know private blockchains are something that are kind of driving the narrative a little bit. Now, we know Ethereum is a public blockchain where people can come use the network. It's all open for everyone. But giant companies around the world, such as BlackRock or JPMorgan, they start experimenting with their own blockchains where they are the only ones who get to use it. What's the recent news in the private blockchain space?
Yeah, thanks, Leon. So private blockchains were all the rage, I think, back in 2017, with a lot of these institutions trying to create their own private blockchains. JP Morgan's one that has stuck with it, and they recently released their tokenized collateral network, which is called, I think, TCN for short. And as you said, this is a private blockchain that isn't public and it's permissioned. So they sort of worked with a few other big banks, such as Barclays and I think a few Middle Eastern banks, to transfer a lot of different money market funds that they had or tokenized deposits. So they successfully did these trades, I think, last week, and we saw them in spate in about 3 or 4 cases in their pilots. Now, the reason why this really matters is because it's more of an example, I think, of that increased tokenization. Tokenization is a big narrative that a lot of headwind or tailwinds may come into the market just because of these traditional assets that may be tokenized and easily traded on blockchains. So we're seeing an example of them doing it in a private setting. And although this may sound confusing of why it matters to you, I think it's more vindication of this increased demand to put things on chain, to tokenize, sort of what a lot of people are comparing to like the old legacy system of how things were created and to this new upgraded infrastructure. It also matters for different cryptocurrencies like Chainlink, who are trying to be that middleman to help bridge different tokenized assets on chain, to help back them up, to secure their value, to make sure everything's reported correctly, and to facilitate them and make them flow to different blockchains. So one thing I'm looking out for is whether we're going to see more of these tokenization, because the BlackRock CEO, he basically said in, I think, one of his posts last year that he was excited about the tokenization of financial assets, and that's the single most important use case for blockchains that he's watching. So it's kind of more of the same, and I'm really excited for these continued positive developments, even if they are in the private space, because I'm waiting until they get more comfortable to start bridging some of this stuff to public blockchains.
Yeah, that's right. And I think this is the narrative that people are waiting for, which is the real world asset narrative, where, for example, you can tokenize financial assets like real estate or cars or condos or whatever it is, right? And these guys are already experimenting with it because, as you said, they see a future for crypto in that specific space. So definitely something to actually keep an eye on because it is super important and it may be the way that crypto is actually going. Yeah. So Nick, let's go on to some of the biggest part of this actual podcast today. I want to talk about some crypto tools that you and I use. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do get some of your questions from the podcast, and some questions are, what tools do we use to keep on track of crypto? There are a few of them. So I wanted to share with you the comprehensive list of crypto analytic tools. Now, I'm going to share my screen here so everyone else can see it. Let me pull it up here. This is a free resource over at the Collective Shift website. So please feel free to follow along or feel free to look at home. Now, this is quite an easy kind of guide that we use. It's got 4 different sections, but we won't touch on all of them. We'll just touch on the ones that we like to use. So Nick, I think where should we start? Should we just quickly start in section 1?
Yeah, let's go for it. I think everyone would be interested to hear the things that you use on your daily basis there to keep insights into the market, because I know that's probably one of the most common questions I get is from people is like, what stuff do you use, and what tools, because there are a lot of free ones out there that a lot of people may not know about.
That's right. And Nick, that's so true. There are some free tools out there which are really great. The best one that comes to mind so far is DeFi Llama and Dune Analytics. I use them all the time. And then, of course, there are some paid tools as well, because these are services that does take a lot of resources. And one of them that comes to mind is Messari itself. They have comprehensive insight into crypto and different tokens, for example. But for now, let's go back to the list. So in section 1, remember I said the keyword DeFi Llama? This is a great tool. The first one that even comes up is DeFi Llama's airdrops page. Now, the airdrops page is pretty good. It actually tells you what crypto protocols there are so far working. And if they don't have a token, that is something that some people are really interested in, because people used to go airdrop farming, Nick, and people got thousands and thousands of dollars. And all I did was go to this list and look down. Oh, what can I use? Go and use it, especially if it's on an easy blockchain that doesn't have a lot of user interface issues. So that's the first one.
DeFi Llama is a great one as well, because arguably I would say that the airdrops bit is probably one of the smallest thing they offer. Yeah. Is that they actually have things from on-chain treasuries to a comparison of different chains, to looking at stable coins. Where do a lot of the stable coins live? Things from NFTs, token unlocks, even token usage. What's getting the most adoption? And then even just comparing different DeFi TVL across the ecosystem. So there's a lot of different ways you can use DeFi Llama that can easily give you an edge up and more information than someone else.
That's right. And like I said, like you said as well, DeFi Llama has a whole bunch of different products that are all free. I particularly love the DeFi Llama Roundup. It's a daily kind of newsletter that gives you an idea of what is happening in crypto in that last day. And for me, I wake up in the morning, I click it, and I just get an overview of crypto, and I love it. It's the best free tool. I wish I could. I should go and donate to them, because they are pretty good. Now, let's keep going down here the list. Some financial metrics, crypto fees. I do like to use this one myself, Nick. I'm not sure if you use it. So this is actually crypto fees generated by the blockchains and crypto organizations. So every layer, layer 2 or Ethereum itself, whenever you pay transaction fees, that actually goes to someone, right? That goes to either a validator or a miner or someone else who's controlling the network. So a good gauge, sometimes it's just a gauge, right? A good gauge sometimes is how much money are these blockchains actually making, right? And some blockchains have near instant and free transactions. They don't make any fees, right? That's maybe a good thing, maybe not be a good thing, but it's really good to keep your eye on it to see who is actually making the boatload of money in fees, Nick.
Yeah, because even blockchains like Solana that may have lower costs to do a transaction, they can still accumulate quite a lot of fees, daily. And it's a direct indication of who are people paying to use. And if you look at the ones that people aren't paying to use, perhaps that's a good insight that they're not being, really demanded in the market.
That's right. Yeah, I fully agree with that. Yeah, even though the low transaction cost, if you use it a lot more times, then hey, people are still using it. And one more thing that I really want to touch on here before we move on to maybe some of yours is token unlocks. Now, this is actually super underrated, Nick. I really want to share that to some of the members out there. So DeFi tokens or any crypto token, right? They are created kind of like out of thin air. Let's be fair. Let's be honest. So they're created, and then the team often keep a small percentage for themselves. And then they say, okay, we're going to keep this for 1 year. And after that, we're going to start unlocking it with that little padlock. And then what we do with it is up to us. Now that sometimes is not good, because what they do with it is they're able to sell it onto market. Not to say that's what they all do, Nick, but they do sell on the market. That means your token price is going to go down. The tokens you hold will go down because they are flooding the market with more tokens. Now, this website is really good because it tells you how much of that token is going into the market, or at least is being unlocked from the team, right? And how much is now circulating in there, and what that impact on the circulating supply is. It's super beneficial because you can probably track sometimes the price will just start slowly going down when a new unlock has happened. Nick, I love token unlocks. I would really recommend everyone use it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great tool. And because at the end of the day, these cryptocurrencies get distributed. There's 100% of a token, and it's got to get distributed somewhere, whether it's to VCs, whether it's to users who have used the platform, or whether it's simply that the supply is yet to hit the market. So it really tells you a lot about a cryptocurrency, and especially in the short term, especially if you may see significant amount of tokens that are unlocking, or if maybe a cryptocurrency's circulating supply or total supply, about only 5% is actually entered the market. So that says a lot about a cryptocurrency, and a lot of people find real good value in that.
That's right. Just like you covered last time with WorldCoin, where we found out only 1% of the actual token was circulating. And I'm very, very unhappy with that, Nick. But Nick, which ones do you like the most? You let us know.
So a lot of area I focus on is a lot of Ethereum L2s, which is projects building to scale Ethereum to make it more usable. So L2Beat is probably the best one for me, just looking up sheer total value that is in the ecosystem. And it also tells you a lot about how these networks are structured and how centralized they may be. So they give them a rating, stage 0, 1, 2. They also let you know what are the potential vulnerabilities of that, crypto network that you may be using. So that one is probably one of the ones I go to a lot just to check out how the ecosystem's faring. Another one is Orbiter Finance, which looks into Ethereum L2s, but it gives it a bit of a specific focus on how it tracks versus Ethereum mainnet. So they got a really cool chart which shows Ethereum L2 transactions versus Ethereum transactions. So that one's a really good one just to look at the sheer magnitude of transactions that are happening on these layer 2 blockchains. And finally, the block data dashboard is another one that's really handy to look for. They give you a really thorough analysis of stablecoin data to Ethereum L2s, just then to other structured products that are in the market. And they also cover a lot of Bitcoin and Ethereum fundamentals. So they're probably the handful that I look to right away and that anyone can really get access to if they want to start digging a bit deeper.
That's right, yeah. And Nic, the beauty thing is these are all free. You don't have to pay a single cent to have access to this data. So if you really want to level up your crypto game, these are some of the tools you should be using. Now, Nic, we don't have time to go through all of them. So should we look at number 2 and see what else stands out to us? In section number 2 is actually non-fungible NFT tokens, as well as section 3, which is blockchain-specific explorers. Let's have a quick look at non-fungibles. What do you like to use in there? And then I'll have a go.
Cool. So you could go through ENS, which gives you a bit of understanding of, I think it's ENS tools. It gives you a look at the transactions, how it's faring, what's high demand, what's low demand, and it can really give you a good feel of, I guess, the ENS ecosystem. Another one there is the Crypto Slam, which gives you a really good indication of, I guess, which not only collections are gaining a lot of adoption, but which chains are these NFTs really growing to or being deployed on. So Crypto Slam for me has probably always been one of the top ones, as well as the things like even OpenSea. People forget that you can look at more detailed analytics on OpenSea. So for me, yeah, probably Crypto Slam number 1.
Yeah, nice man, nice man. For myself in NFTs, I'm not much of an NFT person, but when I did get into it a little bit, I love to use Trait Sniper and Rarity.tools. So these two, the main idea behind these tools was that if you like an NFT collection, for example, and you want to get one specific one in that NFT, then 10,000 of them, you only want one with a specific item, you can go ahead and go through all the data and have a look at to see who has the really cowboy hat that you want, and then who has it and what did they do with it last, and you can go and try and make a bid for that for that one. There was a whole bunch of shenanigans you could do for NFTs, but now I think not many people are going down that route because it is pretty high on the risk scale, let's be honest. But I love to use Rarity Trait Sniper as well. Let's move on, Nic. We don't have much else. I did love to use Blur Marketplace. This is Blur. It was an aggregator really for pro traders. The interface was more geared towards like more analytical approach rather than OpenSea, which had a more general and friendly user interface. Blur was a bit darker, more lines, more graphs, hard edges, for example. It really depends what kind of person you are to use these different protocols. Now, let's go on. I think, should we end it, Nic, or should we talk about blockchain specific?
I think it's a great way just to, I guess, highlight the different tools that are out there. So we also have on this resource blockchain-specific explorers and tools, but then also DApp or project-specific tools. So if you're listening to this and want to find out more information about a particular blockchain or DApp project in the crypto space, really highly suggest coming in and checking out this. My favorite one is probably Arweave. Arweave has a lot of free on-chain data that looks at how many NFTs have been, or how much storage capacity is Arweave taking up over over the course of its life cycle. Even things you can get into the nitty-gritty of how many or exactly what type of file is stored on the Arweave blockchain. So that's just a tiny example about how you can use these crypto tools and the free data that is available via these blockchains, because at the end of the day, they actually get free grants for creating a lot of these tools.
Yeah.
So that's why anybody can access them, because their ecosystem funds, allow these developers to create these tools for everybody to digest.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing what the Ethereum community and the crypto community. We're so happy to give back to the rest of the community itself. Nic, I just saw one that I love to really go more deep dive into. It's the Bitcoin treasuries resource there. It's a list of known Bitcoin in treasuries of traditional private and public companies. Wouldn't you love to know what company holds Bitcoin? That would be pretty amazing, right? And you can probably see when Bitcoin spot ETFs start going off, you'll see this tool being used excessively to see who the hell owns a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a very underrated one, actually. I'm glad that maybe that's a great way to finish this section, because that's one that I look at, if not every couple of weeks, just to see how the trends are changing. And even going back in, maybe this is more of a geekier bit of a tool you can use, but I used to go to the way back machine, which is the Internet Archive. And if you go to Bitcoin treasuries and search back its history, you can see, I guess, where how much percentage of Bitcoin was in these ETF products, as per 2020 or 2021, when the site was first created, which is something that I'm going to look forward to seeing and really tracking, just how high that number gets to.
Yeah, that's right, man. And Nic, let's finish it off with one small thing from me is I'm waiting for a real world asset tool. I want to see like what's tokens are being tokenized and what assets are being tokenized and where they are coming onto the blockchain and who is doing that. And then I think we'll end it there, ladies and gentlemen. So let's move on, Nic. Before we run out of time here, time is precious. So let's look forward to things that we think members should look forward to. Anything else? You think Solana conference, I think, is coming up pretty soon. I'll take that one. Yep. Solana conference is, I think, November, give or take, and it is in Lisbon. They have it every time in Lisbon. It is called the Solana Breakpoint itself. I'm not going myself, but I know some people who are going, and it is pretty cool. Nic, do you know about the conference itself?
Yeah, so it's happening in mid-November, and we're just really looking forward to Firedancer, which is going to be hopefully announced in some capacity at the event, which is a really big sort of infrastructure upgrade to help make the Solana network more reliable.
Yeah, Nic, you seem to be getting a bit more bullish, I've noticed, on Solana over the last couple of months, because I did see your recent post about it over at the Collective Shift platform. So I'm happy to hear that as well, because I do hold some Solana myself, and I'm sure some of the members out there hold some Solana. Now, Nic, one thing I am kind of underappreciating in the market now is it's not a news item. I want an Excel spreadsheet, Nic. And I want to be able to put all the coins and tokens I have on there. I want to put on my crypto goal on there. I want to see what prices these cryptos are going to go to, why I bought them. I need this tool in my life, Nic, and I need to be able to look at it every day and say, okay, these are the cryptos I have. Is it meeting my goal? If not, why do I have it? All this sort of stuff. So it's hard. It's like there's a lot of stuff that could go into it. I'm not very technically savvy in Excel, but this is something I really need, I think, in the market, and maybe I should look to developing. Yeah, so everyone out there, if you do have this tool, I want to see it. Put it in the comments down below, unless you do make your own tool, which is pretty cool. Now, Nic, I think that's the end of the podcast today. That's a wrap. If you're looking for more insights, make sure you check out the weekly revamped Collective Shift newsletter. Provides free weekly market insights every Friday, guys. Subscribe at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. It's collectiveshift.io/newsletter. We'll see you next week, my friends. Bye, Nic.
See ya.